All right, well, this is happening right now. More breaking news. Israel is reporting that Iran has fired more missiles toward the area of one of its major nuclear research centers. Sirens sounding again in the area just hours after two Iranian strikes wounded more than 150 people. It comes as fresh threats between the United States and Iran to strike critical infrastructure are raising fears for millions across the Middle East. President Trump is giving Iran just 48 hours to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, warning that the United States will, quote, obliterate Iranian power plants if it doesn't. The strait carries about a fifth of the world's oil, and its disruption is already rattling global markets, with U.S. gas prices up more than $1 in just a month. And now Iran is firing back with a warning of its own. So News Nation's Joe Khalil, live for us there in Dubai, as promised. Joe, how is Iran responding to this?
Well, they're essentially responding in kind to the threat and the ultimatum President Trump put out, the Iranians threatening right back. The threat that President Trump made was essentially that if Iran in the next 48 hours does not loosen its grip on the Strait of Hormuz, which has obviously been a pressure point, as you mentioned, 20% of the world's oil supply going through there, then the U.S. will start to strike Iranian power plants, civilian infrastructure, the first time that the U.S. would explicitly be doing that. And the Iranian military spokesperson said if that happens, then the Iranians are going to respond by striking both in Israel and U.S. targets dealing with infrastructure on energy, IT, and also water desalination plant. So you've got a threat for threat, escalating rhetoric along with the escalating strikes coming in on both sides. Take a listen to what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, basically making the argument that at this point, he doesn't believe now is the time to stop the war or bring it to a close, because he said that Iran has shown in the last 24 hours it poses an even greater threat. This is what he said.
They have now the capacity to reach deep into Europe. They already have fired on a European country, Cyprus. They are putting everyone in their sights. And fourth, they're stopping a maritime international route, energy route, and trying to blackmail the entire world.
And now we've seen Israel ramp up strikes as well, not just in Iran, but here in Lebanon as well. That is a bridge right along the coast that basically now, with the destruction of it, is going to cut off a major transportation thoroughfare to get from the southern part of the country to the northern part of the country. You know, Hezbollah mostly operates in the south, which is what borders Israel. So significant there. Also, several strikes around Beirut neighborhoods as well that Netanyahu says is targeting Hezbollah targets there. But as this happens, the backdrop overnight, Iran struck inside of Israel, as you mentioned, an energy hub and also this sort of residential looking area, for the first time causing a mass casualty event inside of Israel. You had more than 180 injuries there, no deaths so far reported from that, Anna. But obviously, escalation, both in words and in actual strikes.
Yep, a lot of tit for tat. Netanyahu again saying that Iran is trying to blackmail the world. They think they're great at propaganda. President Trump has said that he believes that the world, our allies and countries that use the Strait of Hormuz, need to help to get this thing open. And we reported yesterday that so far, some countries are lining up to help after the conflict is over, potentially. Is there any movement on that, or other nations coming to the United States and Israel's side on this one?
No, I mean, it is basically status quo, as you laid it out. There have been some allies that have said that perhaps when the fighting is done, that they might help. But President Trump has called on several European partners, several NATO partners to help in the actual war itself. And several of them have been hesitant to do so. We've heard a couple of foreign leaders, very close allies to the president, the German chancellor, for example, effectively say, you know, NATO was set up to defend any one of its members if it comes under attack, arguing, though, that the United States didn't come under attack, that it sort of started the conflict. And you've heard that from several other European allies as well. President Trump obviously not happy about that. He's made his feelings very clear, even as the Japanese Prime Minister was at the White House just the other day talking about how they can be a partner, but perhaps not in the way that President Trump was hoping that the allies would respond.
Yeah, and President Trump has said, look, we don't have a supply problem here in this country. It's causing prices to go up, which is obviously very painful, and it's also painful for his approval ratings. But he said, look, these other countries, they could be dealing with shortages potentially caused by this, and he doesn't quite understand why they won't get involved. But so far, we haven't seen movement on it. Thank you so much, Joe Khalil. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great reporting. Stay safe. All right, we're going to welcome to the show now the founder and president of Shiloh Israel Children's Fund and former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, David Rubin. David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
So President Trump is now giving Iran, as we said, 48 hours to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, or else he's going to be upping the ante, he says here. But the commander-in-chief also said on Friday that he was winding down the war. Today, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says escalation may actually be part of Trump's strategy. Listen to this.
They're not mutually exclusive. Sometimes you have to escalate to de-escalate. He's not going to give away what we're going to do. He's, as President Trump always does, he's leaving all options on the table.
You have to escalate to de-escalate. The art of the deal, it sounds like he's saying there. What do you hope is going to be the ultimate outcome here?
Well, first of all, I think we need to emphasize that President Trump is not just the art of the deal, but President Trump is the art of surprise. And when you're fighting a war, and this is unfortunate in the West, that Western leaders have forgotten how to fight a war. They've forgotten that you're supposed to surprise the enemy. So I would take everything that President Trump says seriously, but with a grain of salt, because very often he's trying to surprise the other side.
I hear you. Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited today an impact site this morning after an Iranian missile strike, and Netanyahu again warning that Iran poses a threat to the entire world. Listen to this.
They fired an intercontinental ballistic missile on Diego Garcia. That's 4,000 kilometers. I've been warning all the time. They have now the capacity to reach deep into Europe. They already have fired on a European country, Cyprus. They are putting everyone in their sights. And fourth, they're stopping a maritime international route, energy route, and trying to blackmail the entire world. What more proof do you need that this regime that threatens the entire world has to be stopped?
Yeah, firing that toward Diego Garcia, showing that some European capitals would be in their line of fire potentially as well, at least within their capabilities there as you look at the distances there. Israel does say that it's intercepted about 92% of more than 400 Iranian ballistic missiles, but 2 missiles still slipped through this weekend and injured more than 100 civilians. Air raid sirens are still sounding across the country. So I want to get your thoughts. What is it like to be there right now? What's it like for families there where you live?
Yeah. Well, thank you for mentioning that I'm the head of the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, which, by the way, people can go to israelchildren.org to find out more about us. But my goal is to defend children. And when Iran and Hezbollah and all of the other proxies are firing at Israeli cities, they are aiming for civilians. And you remember the uproar that the world was in when Israel accidentally killed a few civilians in Gaza. Israel was never targeting civilians, but the Iranians and all of their proxies target civilians. The building that you saw a moment ago in the city of Arad is a civilian neighborhood. Mm-hmm. There are only civilians there. So they are targeting civilians, and the trauma is going through the roof.
Yeah, there are
And,
quite big differences to say the least, and the way that their terror proxies hide under hospitals and schools and libraries and things is just disgusting as well. Netanyahu's saying in order to finish off Iran, boots on the ground might be necessary. Let's listen to this together.
It is often said that you can't do revolutions from the air. That is true. You can't do it only from the air. You can do a lot of things from the air, and we're doing, but there has to be a ground component as well. There are many possibilities for this ground component.
So here in the U.S., a new poll shows 55% of Americans say they do not support sending ground troops into the operation there in Iran. For many Americans, boots on the ground is a red line that they don't want our military to cross. Do you think Israelis feel differently about boots on the ground than Americans do here?
well, look, Israelis have boots on the ground in Lebanon right now. A war has to be fought from the air and from the ground if you really want to win. If you really want to set the stage for the regime to be overthrown. Now, let's be very clear here. Americans suffer from Vietnam syndrome. Americans are afraid to fight wars and to fight it to win. You can't fight a war and win just by going in for a few days and hitting them from the air. It's very effective. It's very powerful, but it doesn't win wars by itself.
All right, we've got a military guest that will give their insight into this as well. Thank you for sharing your positions, and best wishes to you and your family and all the children that you guys are looking out for there. Thank you for joining us. David Rubin, former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. Thank you.